Hey, buddy, watch this.
Hello, Regis Kilbin is the name, and Heroes of the Storm is the game, and these are my first impressions of the brand new hero, Valeera. She just hit the public test realm, and I have taken her out for a spin for the very first time. I know nothing about this character at all. I haven't even watched the preview videos, so I'm going to take a look at her abilities, her talents, see if we can't figure out how these things work, how to use them in games, and learn a little bit about this new melee assassin added to Heroes of the Storm. First things first, her model is just incredible. It feels like it's one of the more detailed models. Outfit looks fantastic, weapons look amazing, cool silhouette, so they nailed that part of her. As far as health is concerned, pretty average stuff. She uses energy, it looks like, as a resource, much like a rogue in World of Warcraft would do, so no mana here, some sort of unique resource system. Don't know exactly how that works yet, but we'll find out, I'm sure. So up first is her trait, and that's Vanish, 8-second cooldown. Valeera vanishes from sight, becoming stealthed and increasing her movement speed by 10%. For the first second, she's unrevealable, can pass through other units. So that's kind of like Samuro a little bit when he jumps into stealth. And using Vanish grants Valeera a different set of abilities while she remains stealthed. Cool, so a stealth hero on a toggle like this is pretty fantastic. Especially because you can control what you're doing. So there's going to be a lot of abilities for us to learn this time around. 10% movement speed increase isn't a ton, but it's enough to gain on an enemy hero without, being oppressively fast. So that's significant. But before we jump into those Vanish abilities, let's just go ahead and look at her standard abilities. Up first is Sinister Strike, 30 energy. And let's go ahead and see how fast the energy comes back pretty fast, and she's not ever going to run out of mana, right? So let's actually toggle cooldowns here so we can do this stuff a little faster. Anyway, this is a 5-second cooldown, dash forward, hitting all enemies in a line for 241 damage. So not a ton of damage at level 20. If Sinister Strike hits a hero, Valeera stops dashing immediately, and the cooldown is reduced to 1 second. So that actually sounds pretty cool. So in other words, you can sort of Sinister Strike while we have cooldowns off. So let's turn them back on. And it seems like you can basically Sinister Strike somebody pretty often. And we're generating combo points, by the way, it seems. So I don't know what those do just yet, but we have 3 combo points. So that's probably going to matter when we have another ability in the future. But yeah, it looks like you can kind of just spam that. I mean, you will run out of energy. Because, your refresh rate on the energy or regen is not enough to allow you to spam. But 1 second cooldown is enough that this allows you to keep ground with people, I'm sure, which is pretty cool. So, that's neat, but let's take a look at W, Blade Flurry. 40 energy, a little more expensive. 4-second cooldown. Deal 285 damage in an area around Valeera. So, pretty basic. Close range AoE. You can see the circle here is pretty small, actually. It's, I think probably the idea with this hero, we'll find out as we look at her stealth abilities, but it's probably to stealth in and unleash multiple things all at once for some burst damage. So there might be situations where you can line up a few people in this W. Although it's not going to be easy to get an entire enemy team, unless they're really clamped down on some sort of point they're defending. There's also E, her Eviscerate, 25 energy, 1 second cooldown, so super, super cheap. And it allows you to eviscerate an enemy dealing damage per combo point. So yeah, there are those combo points, 658 damage at 3 points. And this awards 1, and this awards 1 per enemy hero hit. So it's going to take a couple Qs to get your eviscerates off. Oops, we missed that one. So we have to bear the long cooldown here. And combo points, as you can see, do not last forever. But yeah, that's a pretty big hit when that lands. So this actually feels a bit like World of Warcraft in that it's sort of a rotation, I think. There's going to be an optimal way to do this, where you build combo points, you unleash your E, while still maintaining a balance on your energy. So there's probably some really synergistic series of abilities here, if you can land them consecutively, that lines up nicely. I'm certainly not going to learn that here in this video, but 658 damage on a 1 second cooldown, theoretically, if you can generate enough combo points, is a lot. So that's going to be pretty cool. I didn't actually What is the range on this? It's basically just melee range, maybe a little bit outside of melee range, but pretty tight range overall. So let's head into stealth now and see what else these abilities do. We've got ambush, 1 second cooldown, ambush the target, instantly dealing 395 damage. That also awarded a combo point, it would seem. So it's going to be pretty easy to get to 3 combo points and just wreck people, it looks like. That's a lot of damage we're pumping out there. And I was far from optimal in how I arranged that. So, yeah. Unstealth, Sinister Strike. Oh, yeah, it's just telling me the other options. So there's also Cheap Shot, 30 energy, 1 second cooldown. Deals 66 damage to an enemy and stun them for 1.5 seconds. That's a nice stun. That's really good. You can do stuff like what we just did for a ton of damage. So, that felt nice. Cheap Shot seems fantastic, and it looks like you can basically do this. Wow, you can do this on an 8 second cooldown, essentially, because that's your vanish cooldown. So you can Cheap Shot, fight a little bit, blah 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 blah, and then 8 seconds later stealth and Cheap Shot again. So that's a pretty low cooldown, high duration stun, which seems rather powerful. There's also Garrote, 1 second cooldown again. Garrote an enemy dealing 164 damage instantly, and an additional 384 damage over 7 seconds, and silencing them for 2 seconds. That's fantastic too. So basically you kind of have 3 options here. You can go for just raw damage that's really cheap and efficient to set up, I guess, higher burst damage in the following few abilities, because you've saved so much energy from a 20 energy ability. You can also go for a stun if a silence is not particularly valuable, but it's very low damage. And you can also go for a more sustained damage. Like this one does more total damage than ambush, but not as good against a healer or some sort of life gain or regen, because it takes longer for this damage to apply, but also silence effects. So you just have a choice here of who you're ambushing, how it's going to play out, essentially, based on these 3 abilities, which is really cool, because, you know, once you cast one, you're out of stealth, so you kind of have to pick your poison and go for the one you like best. So that's pretty neat. I like that. A lot of skill involved there, I think. This feels already like a high-skill character, just given the fact that she's pretty close range, impactful decisions to be made, and so on. So let's go ahead and take a look at all these talents and see if we can't learn something here. First is Vigor. Valeera regenerates an additional 2 energy per second, and after gathering so many globes, her maximum energy increases. Well, I don't know that the 2 energy per second is going to make a material difference in any given fight, just because it's not going to add up fast enough. Because, you know, you're looking for, like, burst energy, and I don't know how the rotations work. It might not, but the 120 max probably does matter, because it means you can fit an extra Sinister Strike in a faster period, probably. So, who knows? That feels pretty good. Subtlety. After remaining vanished for at least 4 seconds, using ambush, cheap shot, or garrote, causes Valeera to regenerate an additional 10 energy per second for 5 seconds. Now that feels like a much more material energy regen difference. Essentially that's 50 extra energy in a short enough time period that it probably matters. So if resource gating is an issue with her, if it's a limitation of her playstyle, I don't really know that yet, then this could be pretty good. Because I think you will be vanished for at least 4 seconds rather often. So if you're looking for really big openers, feels like that could be okay. There's also combat readiness. Each combo point spent grants 50 physical armor against the next enemy hero basic attack, reducing its damage by 50%, and stores up to 3 charges. So this utilizes the new armor mechanic. It's essentially just sort of block for Valeera, as you can probably tell by the icon here, the block of old. And gives her some extra survivability. This is a thing that you don't always want as an assassin, because sometimes you're just looking for that raw damage output. But in the right settings, right scenarios, sometimes that survivability does make a difference. So this could be viable. There's also the Crippling Poison, 15-second cooldown active talent. This one causes Valeera's next instance of spell damage to slow enemy movement speed by 25% for 3 seconds. So anytime you use an ability that does damage, essentially, you're going to slow their movement speed by 25%. That's not the biggest movement speed decline in the world. 25% is enough, certainly, to help you gain ground and keep up with them, which will be a problem because it doesn't feel like she has a gap closer. I mean, Sinister Strike a little bit, but it's not, it's not super long range. So if they have their own dash or escape or something, Avala, for instance, is just going to be able to vault away at the same speed that you Sinister Strike. So you may never be able to gain ground without something like Crippling Poison. So, if that's a huge limitation, perhaps this is enough. I think, though, that the CC aspect is going to have to be taken care of by your team. This is going to have to be stuns and stuff that your allies are doing instead of you. So I feel like this one will fall off. That said, I suspect probably Subtlety or Combat Readiness are the top choices in that tier. Up next, level 4 is Relentless Strikes. Reduces the energy cost of Sinister Strike by 10. I don't think you can go wrong there, just because this is the most spammable of all abilities, particularly if you're hitting it regularly, right? That 1 second cooldown means it's going to burn through your energy rather quickly. So yeah, see, we're already out of energy. And this being, another 30 energy means basically a free Eviscerate after 3 of those. So that feels pretty strong. There's also Hemorrhage. Valeera's basic attacks deal 25% additional damage to enemies affected by Garrote. So this is another one that's about sustained damage. You hit them with that Garrote that has the damage over time effect, and as long as that's on there for 7 seconds, you're going to be able to hit them for more. The only problem with that is it denies target switching advantages, so you have to kind of stick to your target, and maybe the battle or the scenario changes and discourages that, and you lose some value from your talent, which could be a problem. Up next is Initiative. Ambush, Cheap Shot, and Garrote all award 2 combo points instead of 1. So, yeah, it just ramps up your Eviscerate damage faster. I don't really know how that's going to interact with her and just how damage works. It feels to me like it might not be that big of a difference. Because, it's essentially moving Eviscerate up 1 spot in your rotation. But then once that happens, the rest of the fight, it's at the same pace. So you're only gaining, theoretically, like 1 second on your E at the very, very beginning of a fight. Which to me might not make a difference. I guess if you vanish out and you come back, it comes again. But I don't know how often that happens or how that works exactly. So I think that Relentless Strikes probably just provides a more consistent impact for most people. There's also Wound Poison, 15-second cooldown. So this is much like Crippling Poison here. It seems like we have poison options, much like a rogue in World of Warcraft might. This one activates to cause Valeera's next instance of spell damage to also reduce healing received by the victim by 50% for 4 seconds. So that's a pretty big healing nerf. That feels like it could be very, very good in very, very high-level play. So, picking your target with things like Garrote in particular, where it's that damage over time that they try to heal through or try to survive through, if this denies that opportunity, that could be pretty good. I think good players could really take advantage of that. Now I'm seeing a build, too, where it's just like a poison build, where you sort of have even more choices to make, in combination with which opener do I choose? You also say, which poison do I choose next? Because these are going to be active abilities. Remember, it's going to pop up on your bar. So you're going to be able to choose openers, choose poisons, and, it's sort of a mix and match type thing where you can do the perfect thing against the perfect opponent. And again, in the right hands, I think that could be really strong. So maybe Wound Poison is actually the best talent here, but I suspect Relentless Strikes will also be good for the average player like myself. Moving on to level 7, it's Mutilate. Sinister Strike now hits with both blades, dealing 100% additional damage, but its range is reduced by 1. So range on Sinister Strike now is this. And I have to be honest, I don't know what 1 really means, but it seems like, yeah, so it's about right here is the max distance that we can hit this guy. So what happens if we choose Mutilate? Oh, whoa, that's actually rather significant. I feel like that makes it so much harder to hit. Let's turn cooldowns off. I mean, look at this. You have to be like literally in their face. Oh, I just don't think that's worth the trade-off. I mean, yes, the damage is nuts now. Well, it's not even really that nuts, is it? It's 482. I mean, doesn't hurt, but I don't know. I don't think that's very good. I just don't suspect it's great. There's also Fatal Finesse. Each time Blade Flurry damages an enemy hero, its damage increases by 3 up to 60. So it was 285, so 60. It's going to take it to 345. But you also can reduce its energy cost by 20. So that really cuts it in half. So that's pretty nice, actually, especially if there's tightly clumped enemy teams. But I just, again, I don't know how good Blade Flurry actually is because I'm worried the radius is too small. Maybe it's not, though. That's going to be easy to add up if it's working at all because, you know, it's an AoE effect. So if you hit 2 heroes each time, you only have to cast it successfully 10 times on average to get that quest finished, which seems like it wouldn't be that hard. There's also Slice and Dice. Eviscerating enemy hero, or no, just an enemy actually, so this will work on NPCs, minions, etc. With 3 combo points, causes Valeera's next 3 basic attacks to have their attack speed increased by 150%. Let's actually see this. I want to reset the talents here so we can choose this. Slice and Dice. Get us to 3 combo points. So watch the attack speed here. And then... Oh, whoa! That was cool looking. I don't know how good it was, but it sure looked cool. It also did not seem like it lasts 3 seconds. Oh, well, I see. The buff actually lasts 3 seconds. But since you're increasing the attack speed so much, and it's based on the number of basic attacks, it just seems like it goes really, really fast, right? But if you weren't attacking right away, like we are, you'd have 3 seconds to start that chain of really, really fast attacks. So that actually seems decent. I think you're going to be using 3 combo points a lot, so that feels cool. There's also Assassinate. Ambush deals 100% additional damage if no other enemy heroes are within 5 range of the victim. So it does 395 now. That would take it to almost 800. That's a lot of damage. And 5 range. I mean, I think you'll be able to catch people out on that quite a bit. Really, even in like team fights and skirmishes, if teams are properly spread out or you've got somebody hanging out in the back, Assassinate might be really, really, really good just because it's such a chunk of their health. Right at the start of a fight, you could burn people down really, really quickly. So, yeah, Slice and Dice and Assassinate certainly feel like the best 2 options at this tier. So let's move on to Heroics finally. Up first is the Smoke Bomb, 1 minute cooldown. Create a cloud of smoke, and while you're in the smoke, you're unrevealable. You can pass through other units. You gain 25 armor, which reduces your damage by 25%. And Valeera can continue to attack and use abilities without being revealed. Using this ability does not break Vanish. So I gotta be honest, I don't totally understand what this does, but I guess it just makes you basically an unkillable machine of death inside that circle. Because, you know, you take less damage, but that's mainly from AoE because you're unrevealable, which apparently means that, you know, it'd be impossible to hit you with an auto attack. So as long as people are in your circle, you're going to be in really good shape. The problem is, why would they stay in your circle? I don't know that you're going to be able to do a lot with this. I mean, maybe you could, like, do things like... Like, can this... Oh, yeah, so see, this is one application, right? Like, you can fight under a fort, it doesn't matter. So, I don't know, I guess it's cool, but I just feel like enemies could pretty easily run out of your smoke bomb. So, maybe I'm missing some sort of application here, but that doesn't feel that strong to me. And it doesn't actually have any sort of passive effect, like a slow or a disorient or a stun or anything. So, again, I feel like they could sort of just run out. I mean, it's maybe it's an escape if you're in a duel or on a objective point and you're trying to fight someone, but I just don't really like it that much. So what's Cloak of Shadows? Short cooldown, 25 seconds. Valeera is enveloped in a Cloak of Shadows, which means it removes all damage over time effects, and for 1 second she becomes unstoppable and gains 75 spell armor, reducing ability damage taken by 75%. So This is like, one of these is sort of a melee counter, and one of these is sort of a spell damage counter. But again, I don't really know that either one feels that strong. Now that looks cool, I'll give you that, but look how short that duration was. Man. Just for 1 second. So this is like, you know, avoid Jaina's Blizzard, avoid a Flame Strike, avoid Nova blasting your head open. I mean, that's really all I see this as an advantage, just to get out of jail free card, sort of. I think it's better than Smoke Bomb just because it's more active. And you can do stuff like this and vanish out, and you're unrevealable basically for almost 2 seconds if you time it correctly, right? Like if you pop vanish right at the end of this. Like they're not gonna be able to hit you, so I don't know. It's a nice escape. So I guess that supports like the ambushing playstyle. Cloak of Shadows feels far better to me than Smoke Bomb. I'd like to see them both in action though to really understand how to utilize them, because I don't know that I see it just yet. So up next at 13 is Elusiveness. This increases your movement speed by an additional 10%. So can't go wrong there. It's not bad. I don't know how impactful it really is though. There's also Death from Above. Ambush now has 5 range and teleports Valeera behind the victim. That sounds pretty good. I don't know necessarily that the teleport is all that valuable. I mean, excuse me, the being behind the victim is all that valuable, but the teleport seems very good. Yeah, that was cool. That hurt too. You can do a lot of damage really fast with the right build here. Not that we have it, we don't. But there's some stuff here that supports a pretty scary build, like Assassinate and Death from Above. And that teleport, you know, that's not a bad range. It's just another gap closer. Between that and Sinister Strike, you're going to be able to keep up with some people. There's also Blind. When Cheap Shot expires, the victim is blinded for 2.5 seconds. So that's a nice little auto attack counter. You're facing some auto attack heroes that can really shut them down. Which is it? It's Cheap Shot, yeah. So this is stunning them, and then they're blinded for 2.5 seconds. They're basically out of a fight for 4 seconds if they're purely auto attack heroes. So I like that too. Both of these seem to be pretty good. And then finally there's Strangle. Garrote reduces ability damage dealt by the victim by 25% for 7 seconds. So yeah, so there's got like a general utility, burst damage, auto attack counter, spell damage counter. So just depending upon the scenario, the team, the map, all of these are probably viable. I would say maybe Elusiveness is the least viable of the 4, but I could see scenarios where all of them work just fine. So moving on to 16, up first is Seal Fate. Sinister Strike deals 50% additional damage and generates an additional combo point when used against silenced, rooted, or stunned enemy heroes. Well, you can take care of quite a bit of that with your own Vanish abilities. So Cheap Shot will do that, and Garrote will both set up Seal Fate here, which makes Sinister Strike really, really strong. Because if you can W, it's so you let's go ahead and pick it. You W to start. You Q, you hit. You Q again. You eviscerate. Your Q is going to be up again. Like, you can really hammer people with multiple rapid Qs. Like, you can land 2 Qs before the stun from Cheap Shot even finishes, as long as you cast it quickly enough. Because this is 1.5 seconds and it's a 1 second cooldown, right? So if you're good, you can do that before they even get out of the stun, basically. Which is, it's going to hit pretty hard. So it's going to hit for like 360 each, right? So I kind of like that. There's also Rupture. There's basic attacks. Refresh the damage over time effect of Garrote. How strong is that? It's 384 divided by 7, so something like 50 damage per second, or a little higher than that. 53 damage per second, something like that. So it's not really that big. I don't really think that's going to be that impactful. So I don't really like Rupture much. Because, it's not adding total damage, necessarily. Especially because each one's just going to refresh it. So it's just starting the 7 second duration over again. It's not adding additional stacks or ticks. So it's not accelerating the amount of damage. It's just making a little bit of damage last a little bit longer. So that feels rather bad. Unless perhaps you're facing like a stealth hero on the enemy team that you're trying to keep from stealthing by dealing some damage. I don't know. There's also exposed armor. Eviscerating an enemy with 3 combo points causes them to lose 25 armor for 2 seconds, increasing all damage taken by 25%. So that's good. Vulnerability talents have always been rather strong, so you can't really go wrong here. Particularly if there's a high priority target on the enemy team that your team is organized at killing, this would be pretty good just to enable that even faster. There's also Thistle Tea. That's a cool WoW reference. 60-second cooldown. Activate to instantly restore 100 energy. Activating Thistle Tea does not break Vanish. So yeah, I mean, a good player who's spamming abilities and in a fight and keeping up with the enemy team could really probably utilize that very well. I think it's going to be mechanically challenging though, both just knowing when to cast it optimally and have abilities ready and on cooldown, but also just knowing when to time it, like when is the right moment to Thistle Tea, like what fight's the right fight, because 60 seconds is a substantial cooldown to consider. So I think with really, really talented players, that's good. Otherwise, probably Expose Armor or Seal Fate are your safest bets, and I would lean towards Expose Armor above anything else. So moving on to 20, let's try some heroic upgrades here. Adrenaline Rush while in Smoke Bomb. Valeera regenerates an additional 30 energy per second. So again, I just don't really know that you're going to be in Smoke Bomb. I mean, yes, of course, there's ETC's Mosh Pit, right? Like maybe you get a Chromie to throw it on a circle to slow some people. Maybe throw all Earthquakes. Like there's ways to keep people in Smoke Bomb for longer. If you synergize right and you have the right team comp to support it. But otherwise, it just feels too unreliable and people could just walk out and then you're kind of left with a useless long cooldown heroic that's really, really hard to utilize. There's also Enveloping Shadows. Whenever Valeera uses Vanish, she also gains Cloak of Shadows. Well, that's pretty cool. So that basically gives your cooldown, your heroic, an 8-second cooldown. But you also have a second one back up on a 25-second cooldown, it sounds like. So I'm not 100% sure it works that way, but I'm sure that it does. So if this is on cooldown, can we still gain it when Vanish comes back up? And does that adjust the cooldown on all of this one? No. So this is, yeah, it's exactly what I suspected. They're a unique cooldown. So you basically have 2 Vanishes, one on a 25-second charge and one on an 8-second charge. I mean, 2 Cloak of Shadows. And you know, like I said, Cloak of Shadows seems better. So this feels strong if you need to disengage. There's also Night Slayer. Reduce the cooldown to Vanish by 3 seconds. I don't know how I feel about that. It seems like 8 seconds is probably enough. I don't know that 8 seconds is so long that you're really, really exposed in a fight. In other words, I don't know that 3 seconds is going to make all the difference of you dying or living. But it could, and if that's the case, if 8 seconds is too long, being able to vanish back out a few seconds earlier and gain access to your really powerful Vanish cooldowns here could be nice. So I won't knock it until I've tried it, I'll say that. And then finally, there's Cold Blood. 45-second cooldown. Activates to increase the damage of Valeera's next Eviscerate by 100%. That's got to be pretty good. Just because Eviscerate already hits so hard. Like, how hard can we make Eviscerate hit? I don't think that affects Eviscerate. I don't think any of these do either. Nor do any of these. Oh, Eviscerate increases that, though, so that's good. I'm just thinking about like an Eviscerate build, if there is such a thing, right? Expose Armor and Cold Blood. Like, I feel like we can make Eviscerate really, really hurt. So watch our damage here. Basically 400 damage per second, so what happens when we do this? Well, it didn't really feel that strong. How hard did it hit? I wasn't even watching. So it still hit for 658. Why did it only hit for 658? Oh, I gotta activate it. Oh, I'm stupid. Duh. It's not a passive thing. It's an activated thing. Oh, yeah, 1315. And then that instant 206, 206, 206 from Relentless, or no. Slice and Dice. That's crazy. We basically did 2k damage in half a second, right? Like, it was very, very rapidly. So let's try it again. Oh, did I not have 3 combo points? I must not have had 3 combo points there. Oh, that's nuts. And then that fourth auto attack hits so fast. It's really like almost 2,200 damage in just instant. That feels really strong. I don't know if you can pass that up. So that feels like a good build. Because exposed armor, I guess, works too. That's why it's hitting for 206 instead of our standard auto attack amount. Yeah, so that feels like it almost has to be the build to me. Just because it was so strong. Trying to see if any of these affect Eviscerate as well, but this seems like a pretty good little build here. I've kind of accidentally assembled, right? Strangle's not it. It's probably Blind or Death from Above. Or maybe the double combo points generator. Where was that one at? Yeah, perhaps Initiative is better than Relentless Strikes for this particular like burst damage build. Just because you get to that 3 combo point Eviscerate even faster. Like it only takes 1 Sinister Strike. So yeah, if I'm going to do a build and test Valeera out, which I will, I think it's this one. I think it's probably Crippling Poison and Initiative and Slice and Dice, Cloak Shadows, Death from Above, Expose Armor, and Cold Blood. And I'd probably move these around. Just personal preference. I like my strongest stuff on 1, and you'll go Vanish, and you're gonna Q, you're gonna Sinister Strike, and then you're gonna do 1,224 damage per second or whatever that was, which is crazy. And it's not even gonna fall off that fast. I could have worked in a W too, I suppose, probably if I was better than I am. It's kind of a really fast key manipulation. You need some practice on hitting that combo, but it's nuts because you can also do it from range thanks to your Q here. So yeah, we were over 1,300 there. We ran out of energy, I think, but we got everything off that I wanted to get off. So that's crazy. That certainly feels like the build. So there it is: Crippling Poison, Initiative, Slice and Dice, Quick Shadows, Death from Above, Expose Armor, and Cold Blood. And I think Valeera's good. She has a lot of high skill rewarding plays thanks to all these different variables you can enact. Strong crowd control, silence, stun, like everything you need to have a really good melee assassin. The damage seems viable too because it's very bursty. Maybe not a lot of sustained damage. I think she just gets shredded too easily in a sustained long range poke style fight, but in good hands she's probably like a better Zeratul, maybe similar to Samuro in some ways, but her own little unique spin, and really fantastic Warcraft character as well. Of course, a face in Hearthstone, and really neat, interesting design. So really excited to see Valeera in the Nexus, and I'm excited to give her some playtime too. So all that said, if you have any thoughts, comments, questions on this hero or Heroes of the Storm in general, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, game on.